Which are the 5 worst ultra-processed foods to avoid at all costs? You may have heard about the study coordinated by a scientific research center and published at the end of August 2025. As part of this study, 2 groups of people were monitored for several weeks. One group consumed mainly ultra-processed foods, while the other consumed mostly unprocessed foods. After just 3 weeks, researchers noticed that the group consuming mostly ultra-processed foods gained more weight than the other group, even though both groups had similar energy intakes. Lithium is a trace element essential for mood regulation, and a decrease in its levels can lead to depression. As part of this study, 2 groups of people were monitored for several weeks. One group consumed mainly ultra-processed foods, while the other consumed mostly unprocessed foods. So I've summarized it all for you. You understand that ultra-processed foods have many impacts on your health, your figure, and your well-being. Therefore, you really need to reduce them as much as possible. In this video, I'll show you the 5 foods to avoid at all costs because ultra-processed foods are really bad for your health. First, let's review the definition of ultra-processed food. To do so, we must first understand the definition of raw food. Raw foods have not undergone any processing. Examples include fruits, vegetables, milk, and meat, which are found in their natural state in nature. A processed product is one that is not found in its natural state in nature. Examples include butter and bread. You can think of others too. An ultra-processed product, on the other hand, is obtained through industrial processes. These are foods that you cannot prepare yourself at home, as the ingredients used are difficult to find in stores. Additives, synthetic preservatives, synthetic sweeteners, etc. They also contain many low-quality ingredients, such as low-quality fats and sugars, which have a significant impact on your blood sugar levels, as well as large amounts of salt and other ingredients that are not particularly beneficial to your health and well-being. So what are these foods that I advise you not to eat? First of all, there are instant noodles. These little Chinese noodles that come in packets and just need to be boiled. You pour boiling water over them, then add a little packet of spices. It seems simple enough and you think, why not? It could be a snack or a light meal when you're not very hungry or feeling well. Well, when you look at the ingredients in these noodles, what do you see? It mainly contains white flour. Other ingredients may also be found, such as leftover toast, etc. It's like other foods I'll talk about later. It contains lots of things, leftovers in fact, that cannot be sold as they are. These instant noodles also contain salt, often palm oil, and flavor enhancers such as monosodium glutamate in the seasoning packet. Lots of salt, synthetic food additives, and noodles that have a high impact on blood sugar levels. This causes blood sugar levels to rise rapidly. This causes a significant release of insulin, which quickly makes you feel hungry and, of course, has other effects on your health, well-being, and figure. As you can see, instant noodles are really not a good idea for a snack. Instead, I suggest you cook real pasta, such as spaghetti. It doesn't take very long to cook, and at least you'll be doing your health a favor. So avoid those famous instant noodles, whose ingredients are rather questionable, I would say. In addition, they are often very salty and contain flavor enhancers that are sometimes hidden under names such as flavoring or yeast. So be careful about that. The second food I advise against eating is gnocchis. As you can see in the picture, this is a kind of sausage often given to children. They seem to be less fatty than other sausages where you can see the fat. However, they contain 25% fat. When you look at how they are made, you don't want to eat them because they contain a whole bunch of poor quality ingredients. These are mainly composed of pork meat and pork fat with added sugar that may be hidden under names such as dextrose. It also contains salt, flavor enhancers, thickeners, binding agents, and a host of food additives and preservatives, such as sodium nitrite, which are definitely not recommended for your health or your figure. So be wary of these foods. They should really be the exception in your diet, and you shouldn't make them a daily or regular part of it. Another food item to avoid is chewing gum, particularly sugar-free gum. Chewing gum contains a variety of additives and chemicals. It contains a variety of food additives, including flavor enhancers, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners, particularly in the case of sugar-free gum. In a way, it's sugars other than real sugar. There are lots of synthetic sweeteners and polyols, such as sorbitol, which are also found in chewing gum. Synthetic antioxidants are also present. Some people might say, yes, but antioxidants are good because they help fight free radicals. Of course, but they're referring to natural antioxidants found in fruits and vegetables. Yes, that's very interesting. But synthetic antioxidants are not. They are pure chemicals that affect your microbiota, i.e., your gut. They cause inflammation in the intestine and consequently throughout the body. So avoid chewing gum. To fight bacteria after meals, choose a toothbrush over chewing gum. I think it's even more effective. If you chew gum for this reason, brush your teeth after every meal. Speaking of teeth, for those who would like to whiten them without going to the dentist, we have already made a video on foods that can help achieve this effect. You can find it at the top right of your screen. And if you chew gum out of habit because you feel like chewing, try something else instead. Cherry tomatoes, for example, if you're hungry. I think it's always possible to find alternatives to avoid having gum in your mouth. The fourth food to avoid at all costs is soda. Sodas are carbonated beverages that are often high in sugar, coloring, and sometimes caffeine and other additives, which can have negative effects on health. I would like to inform you that excessive consumption can lead to obesity, type 2 diabetes, dental problems, and poor kidney health. Cola sodas, for example, contain a synthetic coloring agent that is potentially carcinogenic. So be wary of these sodas. And then, overall, they contain only sugar, which means empty calories. There's nothing in soda, it's really just a sugary drink. So it's really not good for your health or your well-being. And finally, I would advise against eating puffed snack crackers. You know, those little crunchy puffed crackers that come in cheese or peanut flavors, for example. This industrial process creates a puffed texture by bursting the starch grains. This further increases the glycemic impact of the cereal. Corn already has a significant effect on blood sugar levels, but the industrial process of puffing the corn kernels increases this effect even further. Why aren't they any good? Firstly, when you look at the ingredients, you'll see that it contains corn flour. Not only does corn flour have a very high glycemic index, but the cereal is also puffed. Secondly, when you look at the other ingredients, you will see that there is a lot of salt and flavor enhancers, which are sometimes hidden under other ingredients. There are also fats that are not necessarily good for your health, such as sunflower oil, which is pro-inflammatory. They may also contain palm oil or other less desirable fats, which are mainly used by the food industry because of their low cost. These puffed cookies are therefore not a good idea, as they are a chemical cocktail that has a significant impact on your blood sugar levels. What are we going to eat instead? Well, there are lots of things you can enjoy as an appetizer. For example, you can serve cherry tomatoes when they're in season. You can also opt for carrot sticks with homemade hummus. You can also make toast with real whole wheat sourdough bread. Finally, I think there are 1,000 ways to treat yourself. So avoid all those ultra-processed industrial savory snacks, which are really not good for your health, your figure, or your well-being. Avoid ultra-processed foods. Read labels carefully, including the list of ingredients. If a product has a very long list of ingredients, that's not a good sign. A product that isn't ultra-processed doesn't contain a huge number of ingredients. It doesn't have a long list full of all kinds of food additives. That concludes this video. Feel free to share your thoughts on the video and ask any questions in the comments section. We'll be happy to answer them. Don't forget our famous quiz at the end of each video, which helps you remember the key points you've learned. You can find all our quizzes on our channel. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on our various social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, and even here on YouTube. See you soon for a new video on other topics.